everyone, my name is Joy Malete and welcome to Money Matters. Money Matters is an interactive show that aims to educate our viewers on their consumer rights and provide advice on money-related matters. Do you perhaps have a money-related matter that you would like advice on? Well, do go ahead and contact us and we may be able to assist. Today on the show, we are talking life and funeral cover. Why is it important to have either of these policies? Well, please do join in on the conversation and weigh in on what your thoughts are on our Facebook and Twitter platforms using the hashtag MMOnSID. Joining us today is Mpho Butsuma, an independent financial advisor. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today, Mpho.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
It is such a pleasure to have you to educate us on this very important topic.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Mpho, I think sometimes we tend to either confuse a funeral cover and a life policy.
Yeah.
Can you perhaps just help us educate our viewers on what the differences are?
Yes, sure. So, funeral cover, I always ask the question, what would happen if you or a loved one were to pass away suddenly, right? Would you have enough money to cater for the funeral? And that's why you cede then that risk to an insurer, so that they can, assist with the payout of catering to the funeral expenses. So that is one part really, because as soon as you're gone or you've passed away, a loved one has passed away, there's a bigger question. Who or how are they, who's going to provide for them, how are they going to survive, right? And that is where life cover then comes in. So it's sort of like a bigger umbrella over the funeral. So just roughly that's the main thing.
The high level difference. So the other one covers for the immediate expense of the funeral.
Correct.
Whereas the other one caters for the aftermath. So what happens when I die?
Correct.
And then, so then the funeral policy or the payout then kicks in.
Yes.
To sort of look after your people or your dependents once you're late.
Yeah.
Okay. And do we have different types of funeral policies out there?
Well, these funeral policies, they're pretty standard. It's regulated. They would have the same standard, like your waiting period would be 6 months for natural death. And then for accidental death, they cover you immediately. And then they have, little bells and whistles where you get airtime, up front where you get an extra benefit for tombstone, etc. So it's just about making sure you know exactly what you're buying and what the benefits are. And then again, some of them also, in terms of the entry age, it's not all of them that have an entry age of like 84 years. A lot of us want to cover our extended family members, right? So some of them go to the extent of saying your age next birthday should be 84. That's the maximum age. The minimum age, your 40, your children can obviously be covered, but their amount, the payout is then also regulated. So, pretty standard in terms of the way they're regulated. Yes. Yeah.
So do all of them pay out in cash?
Yes.
Do you have perhaps, say, burial societies that also need to be registered? Or is that a different product altogether? Does that not fall under the insurance bracket?
Yes. So, society, stokvel, burial societies, we know our mothers have done very well in that regard. So, yes, funerals obviously registered, regulated funeral cover, as where your societies, your stokvels are more, as and when, and in the community, people are catering for that, right?
So there is no underwriting there. So it's not an insurance product.
Correct.
Per se. Okay. So what should I be looking out for then? Say as a family, as we're planning this thing out, is there any such thing as being perhaps overinsured from a funeral cover perspective, or what should we be looking out for?
So, funeral covers, sadly, people have been taking them, a few funeral covers. You'll find that you've got more than 2 or 3 funeral covers. And what you should really be looking at is saying, well, does the funeral cover then cover the extended family, the nucleus family together with the extended family? But the bigger question is always making sure that there's money left to help the family survive afterwards, right? The income, and that's where the life cover comes in.
Yeah.
So in terms of aggregation within the funeral policy space, you can have multiple funeral policies. We know people do that. However, I always emphasize that, the bigger question is, the funeral, after the funeral, is saying what happens, in terms of life cover. And even with the life cover, I think we're so, we're always geared to thinking about death, forgetting that life happens as well, life happens in terms of accidents happen, severe illness happens. Where do you draw from when, you are then not able to work anymore? So, yeah.
Okay, that's quite interesting. But I just want us to zoom into the question where I've got multiple funeral policies in place.
Yes.
Do all of them pay out? Or are there limitations? And what should I be looking out for?
Yes.
Like in that perspective.
So what you need to be looking out for is just making sure that the insurer you are then going with, do they aggregate with another insurer?
Okay.
Yes. So it's called aggregation. It just means that, it just means that, okay, well, you've got 4 or 5 funeral policies. Unfortunately, because you've got so many, we're only going to pay out X amount.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So just check for aggregation,
Oh, and sometimes we are actually not even aware that there is such a thing as aggregation, right? And where we're thinking I'm going to get 10,000 here, 10,000 there, and essentially we're going to have enough, but only to find out that I only have just 10,000.
1,000, yes. Perfect example.
Wow.
Correct.
Okay. So that's actually that's very important then for our viewers to actually take note of the aggregation of funeral cover by the various providers of these policies. And is there a benefit in having both of these covers, funeral and life cover?
Definitely. Again, I mean, funeral caters, the funeral pays out at least within 48 hours.
Okay.
I think they pride themselves at, the fact that they're able to, within 48 hours, pay out and cater to the funeral costs. And then, with the life policy, also, in terms of claiming, that could take a bit longer. But knowing that your family's taken care of, essentially, is the most important thing, really.
And what really goes on in the back end of these life cover payouts? What sort of investigations then play out in the back end? I mean, we've seen recent cases in the news where people actually, conspire and they plot and they actually take someone's life, for a payout. Is that even advisable to begin with? What really happens in the back end before they actually do pay out?
Yeah. So, at claim stage, the insurer will do their due diligence in terms of making sure that indeed the person, claiming for is the deceased, right? As well as, I think our industry, together with the banking guys, I think we we have it so hard. You're right. We've got a story in the news right now where, someone was conspiring to, get family members out so that they can claim. So each insurer does their due diligence in making sure that indeed this is a valid claim. And they've got their departments, their departments are, quite, what we're going to say, varied in terms of making sure that, the person is indeed,
Shish, and you've lost the life and you're losing out on the payout that you were supposedly hoping to get, which is actually quite a foolish thing to do, I suppose. All right, Mpho, I think we'll just take a short break. And to our viewers at home, thank you for tuning in. We are just going to take a quick short break. Please continue engaging with us on our social media platforms using the hashtag #MMOnSID. See you shortly just after this.
All of these and more on SID Media TV.
Welcome back to Money Matters. If you have just joined us, we are talking life and funeral policies with Mpho Butuma, an independent financial advisor. And before the ad break, we were just looking at, the principles or the differences rather between life and funeral cover. Mpho,
Yes.
Thank you once again. It's I think perhaps just to pick up on where we left off, right? We were just talking on how it's actually unwise to plod, because there's a lot going on in the background, right?
True.
And some of the validations that happen at claim stage.
Correct.
I think I just want to now pick up on what are some of the key considerations that one should be looking out for when actually taking out funeral life cover rather.
Yeah. So with life cover, I usually explain it as there's essentially 4 pillars, right? What happens in the event of death, permanent disability, severe illness, and then there's income protection as well.
Okay.
Right? So death simply, when you pass away, there's an insured amount. You're insured for 3 million or whichever. You choose your beneficiaries, and then the insurer pays out accordingly. But like I said previously as well, life still happens. We get into a car accident, or you are diagnosed with whatever illness, a heart attack, a stroke, cancer. So where do you draw from when you're not able to work as well?
I see.
So you then take care of the other pillar, which is your permanent disability. All right? And it doesn't necessarily, we always think permanent disability is a car accident, and then you are, completely, from completely disabled.
Walk.
Yes, can't walk. Thank you.
That's what we think.
Exactly, that's what we think. But the definition goes deeper where, and your financial advisor will also get technical with you, but the definition goes deeper where we say, are you occupationally disabled, right? So essentially, are you still able to come to the studio like this, present, or not, So maybe your injury is so severe that you're simply not able to come and do this anymore. But are you able to go and sing for children at kindergarten? Definitely. Okay. But that's not your occupation, right?
I see.
You'll definitely not get the same salary. So then you are what we call occupationally disabled. And then that's usually in the form of a lump sum. But also another thing that takes care of occupational disability is income protection as well. So these insurers are saying, well, if you are permanently disabled, we're willing to then give you your salary from whenever you are declared officially occupationally disabled up to retirement. Some people even protect their bonuses. And what happens with the income protection, that it also then increases with inflation, because the assumption is that you would have gotten an increase at work as well, right? Then there's severe illness. Again, severe illness, it goes according to severity. So you could be in a small accident and lose a part of your hearing. You're not necessarily disabled, you just may be impaired. Again, you could maybe just have a stage 1 cancer, not stage 4. And it also depends, then that's when the insurer, does the analysis and say, okay, well, we're going to pay out, the full insured amount or so on. So you need to look at all 4 of those pillars. Then you are comprehensively covered. Yes. So it's not just about the death, which is wonderful. Yes. I mean, we do need both salaries in a household. But what happens if you are not able to work?
I see. So with the income protection plan, or that is tied to the life policy, is that only in the event where you become disabled or unable to work, or is it if I lose my job?
Yeah, so unable to work, is if you're unable to work. Some of the income protections go as far as covering you during retrenchment as well.
I see, okay.
But it's mainly for the fact that you are not able to work, occupationally disabled, correct?
Occupational disability, I see. So not that I lost my job because of, COVID and things like that, so there is no payout like that.
Yes, correct.
Okay, I see. And can I take out a life policy on my property?
Yes, definitely. It's advised to do that, because in the event of death, you wouldn't want your family home to be sold to just take care of, the balance in the bond. So rather take out a life policy to cater for that, because the creditors, at the end of the day, when it's time for the estate to pay out, they would want to make sure that, either the house is sold if there's nothing put in place. But yeah, taking out the life cover, it's actually, I think, it's compulsory. It is compulsory for you to take it out against the bond.
Is it? Okay, so there is credit insurance or credit shortfall insurance, and there is the life policy.
Yes.
So the credit shortfall covers for the credit shortfall.
Yes.
So the life policy, if I've got, say, a cover of $1 million on my property, does it pay out in full or does it only cover the balance?
So let's say the property, the balance was 500,000.
Yeah.
Then the remainder will then go to your beneficiaries.
Okay.
So it's always important, even though you cede that whole contract to the bank, it's always important to allocate beneficiaries anyway, in the event like that, where you've insured it for $1 million, the balance is only 500,000, then that other balance needs to go to your beneficiaries.
Okay, so at least they do get something. It's not like they retain whatever it is that is left over.
No. It will go to your beneficiaries.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. And what are the common terms and conditions that we should be looking out for when signing up for either of these policies? So, right, whether it's a funeral or a life cover, what should I be looking out for?
So, I mean, life cover, goodness, it's quite an extensive process when you're applying for it. They send out a nurse to do your blood work, and there's a lot of underwriting questions. We call them underwriting questions, and essentially they want to know if you've got any existing conditions, what's your family history in terms of these conditions. They also want to know, are you a daredevil? You know, do you do bungee jumping every weekend? Do you go skydiving? All of that, because they need to find out if they're willing to take the risk, right?
The risk.
And I say to my clients all the time, you know, you want an insurer that will investigate you to that extent at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want is at claim stage, we're at claim stage now, the questions are being asked. You know what I mean? So let them do their due diligence at the beginning, and just, you know, go with the process, essentially. Yeah. Let them investigate you so that when they take you, as you always say, if they take you as you are, then that's great. They're saying we are willing to take the risk. I mean, they can also say they don't want to insure you. You know, after analyzing everything, they can also say they don't want to insure you. The other option is them saying, well, we'll insure you, but we're going to just add some, so your premium's going to be a bit more.
I see.
Or some of them can say, well, talk to us again after a year, where they place you on hold, you know, go manage your health a bit better. Yep, they place you on hold, and they say, we'll talk to you again after 12 months. And so it's not always that they take. No, they can also say, actually, no thank you.
They need to assess their risk, because you might be dying like literally tomorrow.
Listen,
based on their risk assessment.
Yes.
And it's actually a cost to the provider.
Yes, correct.
Wow, thank you for that, Mpho. Again, we will take a short break, and we will see you just after this. Don't forget that you're also part of this conversation. We are so keen on hearing your views and comments, so please continue sharing those with us on our social media platforms using the hashtag #MMOnSID. See you just after this. Welcome back to Money Matters. If you have just joined us, we are talking life and funeral policies, and joining us today to just unpack on this topic is Mpho Sebutuma, an independent financial advisor. We have unfortunately come to the last segment of our show today, but we still have more for you in store. Mpho,
Yes.
Can I just insure any life when I'm taking out a life cover?
Okay.
Or are there regulations, you know, around who I can have or I can insure in my policy?
Definitely. It's what we call, there has to be an insurable interest, right? So the nature of this relationship, the person that you're insuring, there has to be some sort of interest in why you're putting them in your policy, right? So a spouse is an example. If you are taking out maybe a life policy for your business assurance, right? So again, you guys are maybe 2-3 directors. The life policy is being taken out in the event of death for a share buyback or something like that, again, that's an insurable interest that's there. So that's how it works. There needs to be some sort of interest there. You can't just put anyone on.
Yeah,
Yes.
you can't. I can't just put my friends.
Sadly not. No, please.
And is it important for the people that I'm insuring to know that I have actually insured them?
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely you want, because, well, the process doesn't allow you to really hide it. Again, you know, the blood work needs to be done. The life insured, the life insured is the one who gets asked all the questions, the medical history, etc. So, yes, what they maybe don't have to know is who you choose as your beneficiaries. That's maybe something you can.
But say I'm taking out a policy on, say, the life of my spouse.
Yes.
Right? And they do the blood work on them. So are they the ones responsible for choosing who the beneficiaries are, even though I'm paying?
So it depends. So if you are going to be the policy holder, so the policy holder is the one that chooses beneficiaries. And so you're the policy holder, he's just the life assured, you're the payer as well. So as the policy holder, then you get to choose the beneficiaries.
So I see. So the life might be theirs that I'm insuring, but if I'm the policy holder, then I get to choose who gets to benefit from the life of this individual. Okay, I see. All right, Mpho, what are some of your key parting shots that you perhaps want to leave with our viewers? Something that if we were to forget everything that we have spoken about today, what is that one thing that we need to remember?
Yes.
It doesn't have to be one, but what is that one thing that we have to remember?
So we need to make sure that we have these things in place. I have young clients that say, well, you know, I don't have a family yet, I don't have property yet, which is all good. But taking out life cover while you're young is a great thing to do. You can't beat those premiums. You'll have comprehensive cover for almost nothing. And then the benefits grow with you, right? Okay. So it's definitely something to consider, even as a young person. And goodness, what are my other parting shots? I don't know. Let me think.
But that's actually quite important, right? Because you're saying you just need to consider. I mean, it's quite an important thing to say that grow with those benefits, which is something that we don't really think about, right?
Correct.
And sometimes we might not necessarily have children, but we've got dependents at home. You know, we come from families that actually depend on us, where we might actually be breadwinners, but we don't even think about those kind of things. Is it important for me to actually think about my extended family members when I'm putting together a life policy?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, you just mentioned if you're a breadwinner, I mean, what happens, never mind death, but what happens if you're not able to work, which we've spoken about extensively. Where are you going to draw from? How are you going to provide? So it's definitely something that you need to consider.
To consider broadly.
And even if you are passing away, leaving some money for them as your beneficiaries is something to think about. So essentially, it's an important topic that we need to be
consistently and constantly engaging on, right?
Correct. Definitely.
Well, there you have it. Thank you, Mpho, so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, we have come to the end of our conversation today. Quite a very interesting and insightful topic. And it's something that we need to constantly think about. The importance of having life and funeral cover. So please make sure that you continue engaging with us. Share your questions, your comments on our social media platforms. The hashtag to use is #MM on SID on all our social media platforms. Do join us again next week, same time, same place, right here on Money Matters. From me, Malete, and the rest of the Money Matters team, it is goodbye and God bless.